in your faithfulness.
So we've been partners at VLC since the beginning, from the time the boys were tiny little elementary schoolers, now on up to middle school, and one getting ready to start high school next year. The journey with VLC has been very good. It's been a challenge. One of the biggest challenges I think that God's moved us towards is in the area of missions and in giving. When we first met, I wasn't one to tithe, but Andrew, when we got engaged, was like, no, I've always tithed. I believe in tithing, and I think we should do it. And I said, okay, it's right. The Bible says it's true. You're supposed to tithe. You should do it. So we decided we were going to tithe as a couple for our lives. And one of the biggest things when I quit work was that we had to shrink our tithe. Our tithe shrunk. But, God was faithful. When I went back to work and I was afraid of leaving the kids and going back to work, it was the joy of being able to give a larger tithe back to the church that really got me through those first couple of weeks of going back to school and leaving the babies at school and not being the stay-at-home mom I wanted to be. There's a story we have that was far greater than that, that God gave us in our giving through VLC. I knew when Nydia first started All for His Glory Ministries that one day I wanted to be able to give a house to a widow in Africa. And it wasn't until I was serving at VBS one year that I realized it was only $750 to build a whole house for a widow over there. And I was like, we can do that. Fast forward, one day we're riding to work, Andrew and I, and he says, hey, did you remember to tithe on that money we had gotten, that check we had gotten? I said, you know what, I didn't, but let's go ahead and, we decided we were going to right then and there give it to All for His Glory, and we were going to build a house for the widows. And so this would have been our second house at this point. And it was a Friday morning. It was just before Ryan's birthday that weekend. And so when we gave that first house to the widow, we got a letter back from Brother Maurice that was talking about, she was just praying. She was so, so grateful for that house, but she was praying for a bed because right now she was sleeping on the ground or on a pile of hay. And Ryan was really moved by that. And he was like, for my birthday, I want to get that widow a bed. Can we get her a bed? And so, we decided, hey, let's give the house to a widow with this money that we were going to tithe on, and let's do a bed, and let's do a bed for the other widow that, from the first house. So Sunday morning, Ryan comes up to Nydia. It's his birthday, and he's going to present her the check. And he gives it to Nydia, and she just bursts out in tears. And she is so totally moved by this. But she comes up to me, and she says, she goes, you have no idea what you've done. See, at that moment that God moved it on our hearts that Friday morning to give a check and build a house for a widow, on the other side of the world, a man decided to commit suicide, and a woman leaving behind a wife and children. And in that part of the world, when a man commits suicide, the wife is cast out from the community, completely naked. Her and the children are completely naked. They have no possessions. They have nothing. They are just cast out from their home and from their community. And Maurice and Nydia and Wally had been praying all weekend that somehow they would be able to find the means to build a house for this widow. And so I'm just completely humbled and honored that God was able to use us that way, and that, He placed it on our hearts on the other side of the world to do that at that moment. Another week goes by, and we come back to church, and, Wally meets us at the door, and he's like, wait till you hear what happened. Well, that Sunday, Brad was preaching and talking about it, that widow had recommitted her life to God. She was just so very grateful. And that Sunday, that day, he was speaking about it in church, and I'm sitting there the entire time. And that was the day that Riley was to be baptized. And I sat there and I'm like, God, not one life but two. Here they are. I'm presenting them to you, Lord. 2 lives back to you. So that's what, kind of just a small piece of what VLC's been to us.